So today we're gonna make beef jerky. Today and tomorrow, in fact. Tonight what I'm doing is I'm starting with the marinade. Gonna marinate my beef overnight, and then tomorrow we'll dry it out. I've only done this once before, and that time I used a fully dry spice mix that I dredged the meat in before dehydrating it. This time I'm basing it on Worcester sauce. Right now in front of me I have a half cup of Worcester sauce, to which I'm going to add a teaspoon of liquid smoke. I'm not going completely by the recipe, by the way. I'm kind of making this up as I go. And hoping for the best. So there's my liquid smoke. Get these out of the way. Now for the dry stuff, what I have here is chili powder, garlic powder, and I'm just gonna throw a half dozen twists of pepper in to the finished product. So in my little cup here, I'm going to put, sorry about the noise, 1 tablespoon, no, let's do a half tablespoon of each. Garlic powder and chili powder. Thing is, I don't have that much meat. I've only got a couple of steaks to go. There you go. Half a tablespoon of garlic. Let's get that out of there so we don't cross-contaminate our flavors. There's another one of chili. Yeah, my meat is half frozen. What I have here is a sirloin tip steak and an inside round. Now I'm going to remove the fat and cut both of these across the grain. I'm going to start with the inside round, which seems to have almost no fat anyway. There's a little chunk of preemptive fat. Let's get rid of that. I'm going to cut this fairly thin. See that? What would you call that? 3 mil? 4 mil? These pieces are very small. I'm uncertain that steaks like this are the best way to go, but online they say they're fabulous. Now the idea here is to use the leanest meat you can, simply because you don't want a lot of fat content in your jerky. It'll go rancid. It'll cause you all kinds of weirdness because, you know, rancid meat does that. Well, that was a little thick, so let's concentrate on what we're doing here. It's important to go across the grain when you're making jerky. It just makes it easier to bite off and chew once it's been dehydrated. If you go along with the grain, I think you're going to end up with something that's way too tough. There's a big hunk of fat right there. It's going to have to come off. There's one. For this larger steak, I'm going to have to take the fat off all around the edge, which is not going to be a problem. But man, last time I did this, I did not partially freeze my meat first, and this is a whole new world for me. You may be able to hear that I'm minding somebody's cat at the moment. She's just making this as hard as she can. Okay, so now that I've got a feel for how thin I can cut this, I'm gonna make shorter work of this. I'm not gonna pay attention to. I had this, you know, fabulous idea of dehydrating each of the different steaks on a different level and blah blah blah. But you know what? Forget about it. Now, I know that some of you guys make jerky or, you know, smoke your own meat or whatever, and I would love to hear your seasoning recipes, especially if you do like a dry spice kind of thing instead of like a marinade. I like the idea of the dried spice better. I found that last time I did this, I kind of didn't do it right, but you know, I'm just cutting you right the hell off. You're cut off, buddy. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys do. Bijou. I'm not being too careful with, you know, cutting off only the fat, just because I find that on this cut, the fat is kind of marbled in. So like here I can, you know, like I can't just get the fat without taking off a little piece of meat. So I've decided not to stress it. So I got my beef and everything in the bowl. And you may think that I'm about to add all my marinade and everything into the bowl, but that's not what I'm going to do. Instead, I'm going to add my marinade into a Ziploc bag. Stand. I said what, a half dozen of these, right? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's about a half dozen, right? And then I'm going to add my meat into the bag, squish it around, and throw it in the fridge for 24 hours. Now, before I go squishing this meat around, I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, so now my marinade is in there. It's a very simple marinade. As I showed you, it's only like 5 ingredients. You gotta squish it around good. You wanna get everything equally marinated. Man, that cat is going crazy. Okay. So that's that until tomorrow morning. So, jerky. So, my beef has been marinating since last night. Should be good and marinated. I've washed my hands, I've washed the racks. I think we're good to go. You may think it's a little gadgety to use a dehydrator. The reason I'm using a dehydrator, well, twofold reason. One, my fancy oven doesn't go down to 170. It stops at 200, and I feel that at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you're kind of cooking the meat very, very gently, but still you're cooking it instead of just dehydrating it. So it's disappointing when I discovered that. But there's nothing I can do about it. And a friend who is moving to merry old England gave me her dehydrator. So I accepted it with good grace, of course, and I've used it once. If this recipe is a success, then I look forward to using it a lot more than once. You know what I'm saying? Let's get rid of some of this. Let's organize our space a bit here. It's going to go on there. So the meat smells really good. One thing that you're supposed to do is towel it off before putting it to rest in the dehydrator. Now you may think that that's getting rid of the flavors and everything, but actually it's been getting flavor right into the meat all night. All I'm doing is taking off the excess and at the same time excess moisture. Because the key here is to get the moisture gone. So you don't want to start off with a soaking wet piece of meat. I mean, you kind of want to give yourself as good a leg up on the process as you can, right? As it is, drying meat takes anywhere from like 4 to 12 hours, depending on what you're using and blah, blah, blah. So why not reduce the amount of time it takes? Well, that's going to take no time. That's a tiny piece. I think I mentioned before that really your goal here when you're cutting this meat is to get every piece as close to the same size as possible. I have found that it's impossible to make it absolutely the same because, let's face it, meat is an organic thing. And as soon as you're talking about organic things, I'm using the old sense of organic, by the way, not the non-GMO sense. But as soon as you're dealing with something that used to be alive, or still is, or whatever, it's not a scientific process anymore, right? You're not dealing with symmetries. You're not dealing with any of that good stuff. So I mean, I got it as close as I could. And if you think about it, a century or two ago, when people cooked using fire and a clay oven, or or wood stove, I kind of don't think that everyone's recipes were ruined just because it wasn't exact. So I'm not going to stress about it. Some recipes say to just drain the meat before putting it in the dehydrator. Others say to rub it off with paper towels. What I've done here is I've got like 4 layers of meat in paper towels just sitting there and draining. I figure that's probably a good middle ground. And so what I'm going to do now is, as I discard the paper, I'm gonna lay the goods into the dehydrator. One thing I did want to say, the marinade that I made was based on like Worcester sauce and liquid smoke, both of which have sodium in them. Last night at one point I was like, geez, I don't know if I got enough salt in, so I threw a little more in. This is not going to be a low sodium snack. If you're on a low sodium diet, this is not the snack for you. But there's kind of no choice. You need to have a little salt in there so that it doesn't spoil in the initial stages of the dehydration. So it can't be helped. So you don't eat a lot of this in one sitting. What I'm going to try to do is put all the small ones on the same layer, because they'll be ready before the other ones. And so that way I can just sort of check them as I go. And once they're ready, I just take all them out and continue for the bigger ones. So let's do this. Okay, so I've got 2 layers. Got one with all the long pieces, and I got one with all the short pieces. So I essentially, dehydrators all kind of work the same way. Okay, dehydrators all work the same way, so I'm not going to tell you all about that, but essentially you put your dehydrator together. Whoops, you do it properly though, not the way I'm doing it. Okay, good to go. You set it for meat 160. You can't go, you can't go any lower than that. And then you plug it in. And you wait 4 to 8 hours. So I'm going to stand right here and wait. He is so dreamy. I find this so boring. Okay, so it's 10:30 in the PM. So this has been going for 5 hours. I took a piece out and I tested it, and it's just about ready. So now we turn it off. The way you know it's ready is if you take a piece out and you bend it back on itself and it cracks but it doesn't snap, then you're good to go. So this is all ready. There are multiple ways that you can store this. You can throw it in the freezer, or you can put it in a Ziploc or something in the fridge. I wouldn't store this at room temperature. When you go and you buy the jerky at the gas station that's in the packet and everything, first of all, there's a lot of chemicals in there, a lot of preservatives, there's a little sachet of stuff to keep everything dry. I mean, there's a lot going on there that you don't get in homemade. So don't expect to just throw this in the cupboard and have it stay good for like a year or something, okay? It's not that. It doesn't have that kind of longevity. No. Okay, it's good. I can taste the Worcester. I can taste the liquid smoke. Next time I'm going to go a little bigger on the flavor though. I'm going to put more in. But yeah, it's a good attempt. So I'm going to get this out and I'm going to package it up, put it in the fridge. But at this point, I want to throw it out to you guys. If you got a recipe that you like, let me know. If you want me to try something else, let me know. Maybe I'll try to do a chicken jerky or something. Now, I got away with 5 hours because I cut this stuff really slim. Okay, the pieces are very small. If I had gone for something a little beefier, pun not intended, but if I cut stuff a little bigger, then maybe it could have gone to 8 or 9 hours. You know, don't skimp on the amount of time that this takes, whether you're using the oven, a dehydrator, or you're doing a fire out in the forest. Okay, so for now, what we got here is some successful jerky. I might eat a little bit of it, and then I'm going to package it up and put the rest away in the fridge. You know what I'm about to say. If you like what I'm doing, then please comment down below, share the video, subscribe, hit that little bell, leave me a smiley thumb. If you don't like what I'm doing, leave me a frowny thumb. Thanks for watching, guys.